All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, Rich Cimini of ESPN is linking three different general managers, three different general manager candidates to the New York Jets. One of which is Mike Greenberg, the assistant Bucs general manager, John Eric Sullivan from the Green Bay Packers, right, current vice president of player personnel, and Alec Halaby, the assistant Eagles general manager. Now, it's important to note that Rich Cimini did not label these guys as finalists. He's not saying these are the three favorites. He's not saying one of these three will get the gig. The official, or how Cimini worded it, was these are the three names that continuously pop up when he's talking to other league sources. So, it didn't really sound like this is actual information coming from the New York Jets. And he actually did say that it's tough to gauge who the finalists are going to be. But let's just go off of this report, right? I think out of those three, easily the one that excites me the most is John Eric Sullivan, the vice president of player personnel from the Green Bay Packers. I think he'd be an awesome fit for what the Jets need. It might not be what Woody Johnson wants to hear, right, which is build through the draft. It's a slow build, inside out, not really targeting like the big star players. By the way, this is under the assumption that John Eric Sullivan would want to build with the New York Jets the same way that he's seen with the Green Bay Packers, right? How he's watched Gutekunst do it, how he's watched John Dorsey do it, how he's watched Ted Thompson do it, right? This is just kind of the Packers way, if you will, right? It's never the big splashy moves. It's always putting the quarterback in a position to have success, always making sure that the quarterback has protection up front with the offensive line. Again, building from the inside out, really investing first round picks into the trenches because that's where they feel as though is the most important. The Green Bay Packers are not about the quick fix, the Band-Aid types of signings, the Band-Aid types of moves. Let's go all in for 1 year. No, it's about that consistent success, which again is something that I've felt is, it's not even remotely close to how the Jets continuously do things. I thought the Jets were going to go down that path when JD first took over, right? With all the losing, the Jets weren't really spending a ton of money in free agency, and it really felt like Douglas wanted to build through the draft, and we had some success there. And then obviously a couple years ago everything changed, right? And the pressure was just immediately placed on the team, and expectations shot up. The timetable or window, because of Aaron Rodgers' age, because of all these Packers veterans that we were signing, it really sped everything up. But in any case, John Eric Sullivan, for me personally, would be the best option, again, out of those three. And to be quite honest with you, I think I would actually have him as my number one general manager candidate at this point in time for the Jets. Of course, he mentions Alec Halaby from the Eagles, Mike Greenberg from the Buccaneers, two guys that have been linked and talked about a lot with this Jets team. So nothing would really surprise me at this point. We've talked to 15 different general manager candidates, a ton of them. I mean, you got to walk away with them. You got to walk away impressed with at least a handful. Personally, my top 6 general manager candidates a couple days ago, obviously included Mike Borgonzi, who was listed as a strong candidate for the Jets. Obviously, he's now off the board with the Tennessee Titans, but removing Borgonzi, I would say my top 6 right now, we've talked a lot about this in previous videos: John Eric Sullivan, Chris Spielman, Lance Newmark, Brian Gain, Darren Moji, and then I think Thomas Dimitroff too, just because of his resume. It's just so strong with the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, didn't end that well, but I mean, man, we can point to a lot of different candidates that the Jets have talked to. I feel like Dimitroff would not only just be qualified for the gig, but he would also step in and not be overwhelmed, right? He's done this before. He's gone through several drafts. He's found a quarterback. He's built an offensive line. He's had multiple playoff wins. He's gotten his team to the Super Bowl. He has won executive of the year 2 times. Again, no more Borgonzi, but for me, those are the 6 that I would personally want to bring back for second interviews. I think they're all pretty interesting. And in regards to Chris Spielman, what's funny is, like, I remember during the season, there was a lot of people at the forefront talking about how the Jets need a football guy, right? A former player, someone who's not going to be overwhelmed by the media, someone who's not going to be bullied by the owner, someone to kind of come in and just take the reins over. Hey, I've rebuilt a team before. I know what I'm doing. I can do this. I understand how players feel. That's Chris Spielman to a T. Now, obviously, he's a Lions legend. I don't think it'll be easy to pry him away from Detroit, but it's, that it's just interesting, right? Because again, I think a lot of people rewind a month, rewind 2 months. A lot of people were talking about, hey, I would like that former player in charge. I remember there was the Curtis Martin rumor, right? President of football ops. Like, we need someone with that mentality that we're sick and tired of losing. We're gonna turn this thing around. Chris Spielman, right? I think that name is really, really interesting. And of course, the Jets have interviewed him. Rick Spielman's heading up the Jets search, or co-heading this Jets search with Mike Tannenbaum. I think it's really, really interesting. But those are my 6 personally. I would love to hear yours down below in the comment section. And how do you feel about these 3, right? Mike Greenberg, Sullivan, and Hallaby. Would you be okay with any of those options? Or are you thinking, you know what, no, I want to go with a Spielman. I want to go with a Brian Gaine. Now, real quick before I end the video, of course, Lions are out. There's a lot of buzz surrounding the New York Jets, potentially getting Aaron Glenn as their next head coach. Personally, I want the Jets to hire a general manager first. The 3 GMs that are connected to Aaron Glenn, just living in this hypothetical, right? The Jets, assuming that all these reports are true about Aaron Glenn, I mean, we can look at the betting odds. He's the favorite at this point in time to land the Jets gig. If all that stuff is true, then we can talk about, again, Chris Spielman makes a ton of sense, because you have that trifecta all on the same page. You can talk about Brian Gaine, right? A former Jet, someone who, of course, knows the franchise, knows the media market, and was also a part of the New York Jets when Aaron Glenn was a player for the Jets. So you have that connection there. And then Lance Newmark. And this is someone who's been talked about and linked heavily to Ben Johnson and the Raiders gig. They're actually interviewing him today, assistant general manager of the Washington Commanders. Newmark is interesting because, of course, 26 years with the Detroit Lions, has seen amazing things. He's seen that Lions organization turn things around, really just completely turn the tables on the rest of the NFL, right? They're no longer just kicked and beaten down. They are now like the top dog. I mean, everyone's freaking out over last night's loss. Think about the expectations. Think about, to take a step back, right? Loss aside, we're living in a day and age where the Detroit Lions had 15 wins, put up one of the best offensive seasons ever, point differential, franchise record in wins. All of these things, right? So important. This is now the standard in Detroit. Right? Yes, they're probably going to lose some assistants here and there, but man, what a job. Everyone involved. Ownership, Brad Holmes, Chris Spielman, Dan Campbell, everyone that's been a part of it, right? Of course, the players. But again, Spielman and Newmark have been a part of that. They've seen that. They've worked in were able to flip that thing around when no one thought it was possible, outside of, of course, the majority of Lions fans. And Newmark's the assistant general manager in Washington. And who just beat the Lions? The Washington Commanders, rolling out a first-year quarterback in Jaden Daniels, a brand new ownership group, a brand new front office, a brand new coaching staff with Cliff and Dan Quinn and Joe Witt, who the Jets interviewed today. Newmark has been a part and has literally changed the futures. 2 incredible turnarounds, the Detroit Lions, the Washington Commanders. So we'll see. We'll see how this thing plays out in regards to Aaron Glenn and all the rumors surrounding him. Brian Flores, obviously, his interview with the Jets. We'll see what happens there. It doesn't really feel like there's much buzz surrounding Ryan Grigson, but as Cimini pointed out here, he literally said it's difficult to gauge who the finalists are going to be. So I guess Grigson could be on the list, but we have no idea until that list is officially dropped. So maybe that's tonight, maybe that's tomorrow. We'll see. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, go Jets.